So let's look at one of the use cases. So I called this one sensors, which is probably a bit of a misnomer because since we're on the simulator, we don't have access to motion sensors, Bluetooth sensors, and a few other important sensors. We can simulate the location sensor, the GPS. And so that's what we're going to do. Now, another way of framing this could be to say that here, with this box here, we've taken an entire framework, or at least a large part of a framework, that being core location, and abstracted it within BlackBox so that we don't have to handle the implementation details of responding to notifications, removing notification listeners, keeping a delegate for the location manager object, etc. All this object does is really just one thing. And that is, it tells you the user's location. So, in order to get that, I'm going to take a print object, and I'm going to send a 1 into the inlet, and it's simulating, I think, a city drive right now. Or we could simulate Apple. So we're sitting still now. And when we're done with it, we just send it to 0, and it's done. Shuts off. So when I say the level of abstraction is arbitrary, obviously there are a lot of features of the core location framework that aren't being leveraged here, right? But they could be. There's no reason they couldn't be. It's just a matter of a design decision. Do you think that you will need to have access to those features regularly, or do you just need the user's location so you can query a server about nearby whatever, restaurants or something? So that's sort of a simple, gentle introduction to how you can make this work. Now, it's not really that simple, however, because let's say that we turn on the GPS and we get a location, and we keep getting this same location over and over and over again. Now, suppose there's something downstream, like say a call to Foursquare's API that takes these coordinates as an argument. We don't want the application calling the server every single time it updates. That would be a waste of battery and data. So we have to manage that somehow. And basically what it comes down to is a matter of how you route the data. So we're going to just kind of walk through a solution to that so you can get an idea of what sorts of problems you would encounter in a framework like this and how you might solve them. So the first thing we can do is we can take this change box. And what the change box does is it only allows a value through if it is not the same as the previous value. So if I disconnect the print box here and hook it up to the outlet of the change box and then connect the GPS, we get the first value, but that's it. So this is sort of the equivalent maybe of using the monitor significant location updates notification in the core location framework. It's, I guess doesn't have as much granularity, but perhaps that's not what you need in a particular case. So great, well we've prevented those server calls, unnecessary server calls from happening, but now, okay, I need my location for something else, and suddenly I don't have it. So what do I do? Well, a little more routing, and we should have that problem solved. So the coordinate comes out of the GPS and comes into the change box. The first value will get through. After that, nothing else is getting through unless it changes. But we want to have it on demand. So we store it here in a value box. Value box is just a generic object storage mechanism, essentially. And the way it works is you send the value you would like to store into the right inlet, and when you would like to retrieve that value, you send a bang to the hot inlet. Now right now it's not going to have a value in it because we just hooked it up. So let's see here. I think we can trick the change box maybe. We'll see. Or alternatively, you can just reload it so that the change box doesn't have this idea. Okay, so
bypass the change box?
you could. Yeah, actually, that's a great point. You could just send the GPS directly in there, and there's not really any reason not to do that. But for the sake of closing the circle, let's put it here. Oh, you know what? I did have a reason for using that. Okay, so let's add an additional requirement. So not only do we want to have that value available on demand, but we still want to make sure that new values get passed through immediately. Now if we sent the output of the GPS directly into the cold inlet of the value, we would have that value available on demand, but we would only get the value when we ask for it. And so we can construct a path for the data that gives us the best of both worlds, like so. Let's see here. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take that change box, and when a value comes out the outlet, we know that it's going to be a new value. So we're going to take that value and send it into the cold inlet of the value box. And then we're going to take, using the trigger, we're going to send it to a bang, which is then going to cause that value to come out of the value box just when it arrives. But at the same time, we can still query it anytime we need. So let's see if that works. So let's turn on the GPS. So we got that first value. Now if we decide later that we want to access it, it's there. Okay, great. So we've got something set up that will allow us to query the location on demand and get new updates, but it isn't very useful where it's sitting right now because GPS data in absence of any context is not of great value. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this, which is an inlet. This is what an inlet looks like on the inside of a box. And we're going to wire that up to the number box. So in other words, when we send a 1 into that inlet, it's going to go into the GPS and trigger the beginning of location updates. Then we're going to take this other inlet We're going to connect it to that bang box. That way, we have one inlet that lets us start and stop location updates, and we have another inlet that we can send a bang to anytime we want to get that value again. And then we're going to take an outlet and hook it up to the value, and we now have a box that we can use elsewhere. So let's do that. Now I think it's sensors plural. If it's not, it's just going to crash, no big deal. Yeah, all right. So now we've got a box that contains what we just did. We can now use it for any other purposes we'd care to. Let's just verify that it's doing what we want it to. We'll send it a 1, and we get our location, and if we need it again, it is available. Now, what you're looking at right here, this is not the same instance of that patch or box that we were just looking at. This is a new instance of that, whereas before, in the earlier example, we were looking at the same instance. So, for example, if I were to look at the internals of this box, we would find that its values don't match those contained in this box. So